The rim of my wine glass caught the flickering candlelight as it swirled across the polished mahogany table, casting golden shadows on the immaculate white linen. I had spent every penny on this night. The champagne was drained, chilled to perfection. The steak, perfectly cooked after being matured for 35 days, rested beside truffle risotto, served with shaved white gold. Our anniversary wasn't just a date to me. I had prepared a timeless, elegant, private celebration. It was a landmark, a moment I wanted to etch into our memories. After receiving the leather-bound bill folder from the waiter, I smiled quietly as I looked over the sum. When the door opened, I looked up, expecting Serena to walk in. She had earned every moment of this. Instead, Serena strode in like she was glowing, flushed maybe, from being moved by the consideration. But she wasn't alone. She walked in like she was showing off at a movie premiere, wearing silk heels sharp enough to draw blood, flanked by two men, Dorian Kian and her ex-husband. They shared the same arrogant, slothful charm that came with inherited money and a lack of emotional responsibility. Both looked like they belonged on a red carpet, not at our table. My voice didn't rise. My jaw didn't drop. Not even at someone else's marriage celebration being inserted into my own. But something inside me stumbled. When Serena saw my, "Look!" she chuckled and brushed back her curls. "Oh, come on," she chirped as she walked toward Micah. "It's just dinner, don't be so dramatic." She took her seat like everything was in its proper place. "Just dinner?" I asked, standing. Slowly as the waiter brought out chairs for them. No one questioned it. Not Serena, not them, and definitely not the maitre d'. I had tipped her generously beforehand, because I already sensed I'd have trouble finding the right words. Serena slid into the seat across from me like it belonged to her. Kian sat. On her left, boxing her in. Dorian on her right. She threw her hair over her shoulder and smiled, the same grin that once made me feel at home, but now felt like the start of a storm. "Nice spot," Kian nodded. "Hope we didn't underdress." "Looks formal." I didn't answer. My fingers curled slowly around my glass. Dorian laughed. "Calm down, man. We're just catching up. No crime in old friends, right?" When the server returned to take drink orders, Serena leaned back like a serpent. Her hand rested on Dorian's arm as she smiled and poured her perfume into the moment. Like syrup, I watched silently as she eased their order into the conversation. He liked his wine a little drier these days. It was comforting the way they took over my table. Like it was a tribute to them. I had selected the dinner. I brought a gift, an antique fountain pen she'd once admired in a bookshop window. It still sat in a velvet box in my jacket pocket, waiting to be revealed. But I already knew I wouldn't be giving it to her tonight. At last, her eyes met mine. "You okay, babe?" she asked softly. I nodded once, slow. As if I agreed. She turned back to Dorian, who was already diving into a story about their vacation to Barcelona. Something only I could hear. She giggled, tilted her head back, stroked his knee like it was second nature. It wasn't the stories that hurt. It was the casualness of it all. I'd been demoted, without even a warning, in my own relationship. This evening was supposed to be a celebration of us. Instead, it was hijacked, altered, and I was expected to accept it all with a grin. I didn't say much. Not about the wine, not about the laughter. But I noticed. I saw how Serena didn't flinch when Dorian put his hand over hers during a shared joke. I noticed how Kian looked at me, searching for the moment I'd crack. But I didn't. When the check arrived, I signed it without flinching. No one else offered. Of course they didn't. The room felt silent, like water behind a dam. After the plates were cleared and the glasses emptied, Serena stood and kissed me on the cheek. She whispered softly, like I was the event planner. "Thanks for making tonight happen. You've always been so thoughtful." I nodded again, but something inside me had shifted. She thought this was just dinner, but this was the night I saw them all clearly. The night I ceased being the quiet, dependable spouse. The night I chose to become something else. The waiter kept pouring wine, unaware of the storm building beneath my calm. Dorian started telling another story, and Serena leaned in closer, smiling in full view. "Remember that yacht?" she grinned. "The one with the broken sound system?" "Oh, how could I forget?" he laughed. "We had to sing the entire night." "You were so off-key," she giggled, clinking her glass to his. "I thought the dolphins would beach themselves to stop it." Kian laughed and slapped the table. Fork hovered in midair. I stared at the gap between Serena and the table, my hand open, not even flinching. They laughed and reminisced about cheap candy, skinny dips, and bar fights in Montreal. Serena squealed, "Remember the parrot on my shoulder?" "Too late now," Dorian smirked. "You swore we'd never bring that up." They smiled at me like I was just the man who paid the cover charge for their private reunion. And maybe I was. Her ex-boyfriend, her ex-husband, and me, the husband in name only. "Serena's untamable," Kian said without blinking. "Don't flatter me," she whispered, shoving him under the table with her heel, though her voice invited more. "You'll always have that fire in your eyes," Dorian added, raising his glass. "Even if you've matured." No man should say that aloud, but he did. He toasted to Serena, the woman. The implication hung in the air like smoke, thick, inescapable, unchallenged. I didn't eat. I didn't interrupt. She didn't soften the blows. She didn't redirect the spotlight. She basked in it. Worse, she looked beautiful doing it. Eating admiration with a silver spoon, disguising disrespect as nostalgia. At one point, Kian leaned toward me. "This lighting," he said, "makes her feel more alive than she has in years." Then, without shame, "No offense, dude." That was when something inside me split. Not from anger, not from sadness, but with surgical precision. This wasn't inconsideration. It was calculated. And Serena? She was complicit. Still, I didn't blink. I didn't flinch. I didn't give them the satisfaction of a reaction. The conversation stretched until even Kian looked uncomfortable. But still, I stayed silent. They mistook it for weakness. They didn't realize that silence isn't surrender. And when Kian spoke those words and Serena didn't correct him, I knew. The laughter rose louder. Dorian's cufflinks gleamed with arrogance. His watch caught the light like a knife. Serena's manicured nails brushed both men effortlessly, her smile wide,